So we're standing here today in reference to this bill that is very harmful and very unconstitutional, that actually harms many, many people. Here on Long Island, that has a history of deep-rooted racism and segregation, we see them becoming the flagship, not only for here, but for the country. This will be the county, or this is the county, that first passed a law like this, giving extra protection to police, making them completely invincible to where we thought they already were. There are many groups that have fought to be a protected group in this country. A fight they shouldn't have had to fight. It should have been realized and known, but it's not. And many lives were lost. Many people had to suffer. Many people were hurt, emotionally and physically. And yet, they are being slapped in the face with this bill that has been passed on Monday. This bill gives police officers not only the same protection as marginalized groups such as blacks and the LGBT community, but it gives them even more protection. You see, if I were to be discriminated against because of my race at, let's say, a workplace or anywhere, I'd have to have proof and more proof just to prove that I am telling the truth, which involves me having to relive the trauma of the event, and it involves me having to do things that are not natural to me, like having to record maybe somebody saying or doing something. Meanwhile, most racism is actually microcosms. They're more felt than said right in your face. I haven't had my boss stand up to me and call me the N-word, but I felt the N-word come at me before. I've been treated differently because of my skin color, but yet I can't prove it. These officers that claim harassment, that claim that once they brutalize somebody that they in fact were brutalized or attacked or injured and they're attacking somebody else, they don't have to prove anything. They could make a claim and that's it. It's going to go straight on through. They're not going to be attacked or asked to provide more and more evidence for what is wrong. It's just going to be, okay, you got it, come on through. A complete slap in the face. And this is a recoil. This is a recoil effect. Just a little while ago, a year ago, a little bit over a year ago now, in light of George Floyd's murder, the murder of George Floyd, there was a mandate from Governor Cuomo. And the mandate says that there needs to be a reimagining of the police force. It is very obvious that there is something very deep-rooted and wrong and evil within this force here in Nassau County and here on Long Island. Nassau County completely ignored that mandate for change. Just said, I don't have to. You don't have to do that. We're not going to. And we waited and we were in meetings and we were saying, yes, we got to fight. And they even said in meetings, a lot of police officers that are here right now surrounding us, we're in on those meetings doing performative acts to make us feel comfortable. Like, oh yeah, we'll make change. Of course, yeah, come sit on these meetings. Enjoy it. Yeah, we're going to make change. And nothing happened. Nothing happened. There's a law. It's called 50-A. And New York was one of the last ones to implement this law that dates back to the 70s. 50-A okay? It makes any record used to judge officers' performance confidential. So you wouldn't even know that they were doing anything wrong. And they're able to maintain their image of being okay. So Law 50-A is supposed to make sure that there's transparency. One of the things that we were calling for with the change, with the reform plan, was for there to be a community review board. That's what 50-A is basically implementing, that there's transparency. Right now there are hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of cases, reports filed by people abused, harassed, mistreated by Nassau County cops, but yet we can't get any access to it because they're not following the statute that was presented to them in Law 50-A. They feel they don't have to. New York, that's the city. That's a nice liberal place. Out here it's all red. It's all red, and they think they don't have to follow. It's deep-rooted in this Long Island history. They were all in the city, in the boroughs, and guess what? They were promised here on the island a nice, safe home. Whites only. A safe haven. Protected, nice. They were able to run from the city. They are doing the exact same thing now. New York implemented this law in 2019, and they've completely ignored it, like they completely ignored the executive order dating from last year. And they're just getting away with it. They have this arrogance, this air of feeling good and strong and feeling like nothing could stop them or harm them. They walk around and they do what they want, when they want, how they want, and their expectation is that nobody sees, nobody knows, and if they do see, and if people do know, it's going to be kept on the hush. And guess what? After years of reinforcement, no wonder they think this way. Yesterday there was a call, and there's a lot of people calling for Laura Coran to veto this unconstitutional law, and she absolutely should. But this is one of the many, many, many examples of clear unconstitutionality and a nose up to what the law is. Clearly, this county is corrupt. Clearly, this county has deep-rooted feelings of hate deep inside of it. And clearly, they're not looking to change anytime soon. So what are we to do? Are we to continue trusting what the powers that be here on Long Island, here in Nassau County? No way. We need oversight. Somebody has to look into this clear unconstitutionality and make sure that this whole system gets thrown away. Because unfortunately, and I hate to be in positions like this, but unfortunately, this law that will harm many people, and predominantly people of color, black people. Unfortunately, there is nothing that could be changed unless somebody else comes in and makes sure something happens. That somebody is Letitia James. Letitia James has an office that's right up the block, a satellite office. And I'm gonna give you the number 2 right after this. They need to oversee what Nassau County is doing. It is unlawful. They claim, and again, in Josh Lafazan's bill, they claim that there's this need to protect officers. There's this need to protect officers. And it's from this Blue Lives Matter thing. From back then, when they tried to compare a uniform to a skin color or sexual orientation. It was a joke then. We sat there and laughed at it then, but it's actually being implemented now. It's being shown to you, yep. We actually do think that. It's not a joke. Blue lives matter. It's just like you being black. It's just like you being gay. It's just like you being a woman. And yeah, we could take it off when we want, and we could do what we want, and we get early retirement, and we get to continue to work when we brutalize unlawfully people. But we're just like you, and we're in fear, and we're made to tremble. We've talked about white fragility. That stems over to the police. You see, the police have a measure of fragility themselves. Just us out here speaking on what is clearly unconstitutional, that makes them feel uneasy. And that makes people say, well, wait a minute. We're just the proud men in blue. We protect, we serve, and all we get is ridicule and hate and wah. This is not real struggle. This is not real pain. This is not real torture endured by predominantly black people here in this county. This is not that. This is a not wanting to take a look in the mirror, assess that there is a problem, and that something needs to be done about it. There is this stepping aside, this feeling of I don't want to have to address it, I don't want to have to deal with it, and guess what, it's not true. And they could continue to say it's not true, and they could continue to say that they are these honorable police officers because, again, they are not following the mandate of 50-A that would expose all of the complaints made against them by thousands of people that are crying out for help, that sent in an internal affairs investigation to another white police officer that's gonna fake act like he's looking at it and then throw it to the side like he does with all of them. It is staggering that here, because we often think that the most racist, deep-rooted racism is in the South. It is staggering that right here is where they're introducing such an unconstitutional law. We saw men and women describe themselves as patriots that were actually domestic terrorists during the insurrection. And these patriots, they say, we want to uphold the Constitution and what our forefathers fought for. You know what they fought for? Freedom of speech, First Amendment. You know what other Americans fought for? Civil Rights Act, Voting Act. What we continue to see is this recoil effect. In Georgia, they just won first time in many, many years, that state turned over blue during the election year. Do you remember the recoil effect of that? A complete slap in the face to the Voting Rights Act. They're making laws to continue to oppress black voters and act like it's okay. You see, once a black person gets one step, they get pushed back 3, 4, 5 more. This is part of the systemic racism that we're talking about. Monday, this bill was passed, and there were hundreds in attendance, and many people that spoke, dozens of people that spoke. You know how many people stood up on that podium and says, yes, I actually do. I'm a tax-paying citizen here in Nassau County, here on Long Island, and I support this law. It has to happen. We need this protection. We need these police. Yes, I support. Do you know how many out of dozens? Zero. But yet the majority of legislation who's supposed to be representing us, the people, they said send it on through anyway. Does that sound like justice? Does that sound fair? Does that sound like a proper representation to us, the community? No, no, no. We cannot be asleep at the wheel at this time of hate, at this time of oppression, because it could cost our lives. Before the re-election, or while election time was going on in November, leading up to that, there were a lot of people out on the streets, and there were a lot of people calling for Donald Trump to be impeached, for him not to be reelected. And I saw, really for the first time, the same amount of fear, or close to the same amount of fear, in white people's eyes as I've seen that fear in black people's eyes, because this time they were afraid of something that actually would touch them. They were afraid of this supremacy bleeding through into government, and that system, that effect permeating into our daily lives, and it becoming just something similar to Nazi Germany, to fascism. And this would touch even white people. But then after the election was over, I guess people went back to their regular days of life because it doesn't really touch them. But yet we're still seeing that effect slowly start to happen here. And if we let it happen here, others will follow. And if we keep on sleeping and sleeping, the entire country will be just like here. Nassau County passed a bill, and guess what? Suffolk County's right around the corner. They're passing a similar bill next week. Guess who's gonna be next? This other state, this other place, following the example of Nassau County. I am embarrassed to be born and raised in Nassau County today. Completely embarrassed. This is national news. We see the bail system. And I'm sorry, my brother behind me, Devon, he was locked up, okay? Awaiting trial because they put a $500,000 bond on him. The charges were dropped on him. Most of the charges, and he's not going to be facing time. The charges were dropped on him, but yet he still had to be in jail for 3 months. You know why? Because he doesn't have $500,000 lying around. $30,000, $50,000. These are the numbers being thrown around to sue, that you could be sued for. Any one of you guys have $30,000 lying around? 50,000? No, right? Continued oppression. As if us working minimum wage jobs, struggling to stay alive, as if police occupying our neighborhoods, as if U.S. Army occupies territory in Iraq or anywhere during war and are just there with rifles standing on the street isn't enough. Ripping fathers away from homes, mothers away from homes, families being broken up. As if our school systems being below grade because we just don't have the property value that here in Mineola or Garden City has, as Hempstead has, isn't enough. We have to face this hate. There is a huge problem here in Nassau County, and it is time that we all organize together, because this is not going to be something that happens just by me, just by one of anybody else. This is going to take everybody involved in social justice work, because they're all lined up. They're all ready. That's why they had the nerve to do that terrorist attack on the Capitol. You know why they had the nerve? Because they're ready to mobilize. They're ready. Police officers, supporters of police, they come in chest out and stuff like that because they're ready. We're talking Blue Lives Matter. Blue Lives Matter, that's what they're telling us. They don't like the fact that we black people are saying we need change. We're tired of the oppression. Something that is so basic, human rights, that we are not granted many, many years after slavery ended, years after civil rights, that we are still not granted, we're still fighting for. But yet right behind us, we see where our county lies on that matter. See, this isn't the war that we came about to be. See, we're not trying to war against police like we just hate police. We don't want to be killed. We don't want to be brutalized. We don't want to be harassed. We don't want to be stalked when I'm driving home past Mineola and Garden City to get home to Hempstead. We don't want to be stalked and harassed and feel like harm. Mothers saying, they're sending their kids out, oh, hey, 15-year-old kid, hey, I'm going to John's house today. And the mother, the whole time he's out, is sick to his stomach. She's sick to her stomach, right? It's not a war we wanted, but this is what they said. They made Blue Lives Matter in response to Black Lives Matter because they don't want to have to deal with the fact that they are to blame for this institutionalism, this racism, this hurt. Right behind you, you see where legislation stands. Let's take a look behind you. You guys see, it's subtle, but it's clear. You guys see those blue stripes right on the columns? What is that? You don't know? Does anyone know what those blue stripes are? Back to blue. Yeah, Blue Lives Matter, back to blue. They've thrown their stake in this political fight, and they are against us. Take a look up there, right across the street. What's that flag, that one with the stripes and the blue line and all that? That's the Blue Lives flag, huh? It's right in our face. It is slapping us right across the face, and we're just letting it happen. Our ancestors did not die on the lines, walking in peace, fighting for what was right. They did not die for no reason. They did not die for progress to not be made, but for regression to happen. They did not die for that. Not only us black people, but all marginalized communities groups, LGBTQ, Jewish people. There's a history behind it. There's recognition. There's people saying, yes, of course, this was wrong. You are treated wrong. We're going to turn it around. We're going to make things happen. This is the exact opposite. This is them saying we're set in our ways. Long Island, Nassau County, we're a police state. And if that means not being a human rights state, that means that we're going to take a step away from the Constitution, which all you patriots say you fight for. If it means going against that, we'll do it because we need law and order. Yet another recoil effect of the civil rights movement, where we saw hundreds of thousands of millions of black people arrested for crazy amounts of time for things such as having a little bag of weed on them, or even some lesser crimes than that. There's always been a pushback when there is a natural step forward for the black community and for all marginalized communities, and we mustn't stand by and allow this to happen. Thank you.